on scene here that we're getting this information from. We were actually the first ones here with about 30 different law enforcement vehicles at least. There are 3 Bearcats on scene here. This just all unfolded, Sandra, I would say less than 10 minutes ago. We got here even before the crime scene tape came up.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual.
In a stunning development, the FBI has made headlines with its dramatic arrest of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, revealing a series of high-profile raids and unsettling allegations. This case has gripped the public's attention and cast doubt on the personas we thought we understood. We'll delve into the startling confessions Diddy has made to the FBI and explore the far-reaching consequences for all parties involved. Recently, the FBI executed a high-profile raid at Diddy's residence in HVY Hills, involving an exhaustive search by agents that lasted for several hours.
On scene here that we're getting this information from, we were actually the first ones here with about 30 different law enforcement vehicles at least. There are 3 Bearcats on scene here. This just all unfolded, Sandra, I would say less than 10 minutes ago. We got here even before the crime scene tape came up. So we're just down the hill. If you look up this street where Tony is right now to the right, you'll see one of those Bearcats and law enforcement. And on the other side of those bushes, basically, is that home that is registered to Bad Boy Films, which is part of Bad Boy Entertainment. And the home in particular is registered not only to Bad Boy Films, but to one of P. Diddy's daughters.
They are heavily armed, and they've been very tactful, would probably be the best word to use, as they made entry into this home this afternoon. We actually watched them as they made their way through one of these side gates, and as soon as they got inside the home, one of the first things they did was made their way into this garage that you see is open right there.
To everyone's astonishment, Diddy was absent during the raid, intensifying speculation that he may have something to conceal.
They did take a couple people into custody. We witnessed that. Now, are they under arrest? Are they just being asked about what they know? That I can't answer, but I can tell you there's 3 people right there that were taken into custody, were inside that home at the time of the raid.
We did see a bunch of investigators going in, making the raid in there and clearing that as well. So they're going to do a thorough search as they conduct this raid. And so far, Stu, from what I understand and from Haley on the ground there, they have not seen, and we have not seen from our vantage point, any sign of Sean Combs, the 54-year-old who is believed to be the property owner of.
According to a former FBI agent, while the raid itself wasn't entirely unexpected given Diddy's history of legal troubles, the nature of the allegations was jaw-dropping. The agent revealed that what truly caught people off guard was the extent of Diddy's alleged involvement in a sex trafficking ring, which reportedly includes minors.
All right, your overall thoughts on this raid? What a development this is.
You know, it is quite a development, but, you know, just like you mentioned before, I'm not necessarily surprised that it happened because there has been so much in regards to civil cases. Now, I realize that those civil cases are going to have no bearing on the raids that occurred. I understand that. But at the same time, in my opinion, where there's smoke, there's fire. And a lot of these civil cases probably have criminal merit at some point. And so I am not necessarily surprised that this happened, but what will surprise me, and I think might surprise some people, is the sheer volume and connection of any kind of sex trafficking ring that he allegedly may have been running. I think that is what is going to come probably as the most surprising to folks, how in-depth something like this was, how long something like this may have gone on for, and how many people were involved. Typically, HSI really looks at sex trafficking in regards to minors. And so that's another layer to this as well that I think is probably the surprising component.
The former FBI agent made a chilling comparison between Diddy and the notorious Jeffrey Epstein, rather than linking him to high-profile politicians. However, the agent noted that Diddy's alleged clients are primarily figures from the entertainment industry. They cautioned that this could be a vast network that will require significant effort to unravel.
Comparison to Epstein, I think, Epstein, he was also recording and also had secret cameras really throughout all of his homes, private planes, all of that. And, his client list was more about politicians. Here, I think what we're going to see are clients involved in the entertainment business or pop culture, if you will. And so I do think right now this is going to be a huge web that they're going to have to untangle. And I'm expecting it's going to take quite some time to go through all of that digital evidence, because I fully expect that he had cameras in other locations as well. It's my understanding that those aren't just his two sole places of residence and where he spends time. So I suspect there will be more digital evidence.
Fast forward to September 17th, and the situation took a dramatic turn. Diddy was finally apprehended by federal agents at his New York hotel, marking a crucial development that underscores the gravity of the charges against him.
Breaking news: Sean P. Diddy Combs has been arrested and indicted on federal charges. The disgraced music icon has faced startling allegations for months of rape, sexual assault, physical abuse, gun trafficking, and drug trafficking. On Monday evening, he was indicted by a grand jury in New York. He was taken into custody in Manhattan, where he's been for the last week in anticipation of these charges. Now, the charges haven't been made public just yet. In fact, the indictment was sealed. But according to the New York Times, a person familiar with the prosecution says they believe Diddy faces charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Diddy's legal team said they were disappointed with the decision to prosecute, but mentioned their client has been cooperative with law enforcement.
The indictment against Diddy is particularly damning, with charges that mirror those faced by R. Kelly, including racketeering, a grave offense linked to organized criminal activities. The parallels between the two cases are drawing significant attention and concern.
Because as Mark Agnifilio, his attorney, said to the press today and last night, they were anticipating racketeering and sex trafficking charges, and that is what we see in this grand jury indictment. It is 14 pages long. There are 3 counts. One that makes up the majority of this indictment is the racketeering enterprise. So let me go through it with you right now. Now, racketeering, and by the way, I will tell you this is similar to what we saw with R. Kelly, who, as we know, was also indicted in federal court in New York. That was the Eastern District of New York. This is the Southern District. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison. So racketeering, what we are talking about here, is a criminal enterprise. And a conspiracy to commit the racketeering statute is there's a criminal agreement, there's a number of overt acts, there's predicate crimes. So there's things that Diddy is not necessarily being charged with on an individual basis, but they make up this criminal enterprise. In other words, there's evidence that will show this is a criminal.
The indictment also includes a conspiracy charge related to racketeering, which involves a criminal agreement, numerous overt acts, and predicate crimes. Although Diddy may not be individually charged with all these acts, they collectively suggest the existence of a criminal enterprise. At a recent press conference, the U.S. attorney outlined the serious allegations against Diddy, which encompass bribery, kidnapping, sex trafficking, and other severe offenses. The gravity of these charges presents a troubling portrait of Diddy's alleged criminal activities.
I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
In an eerie twist, John Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, had eerily predicted Diddy's arrest. Deal, who had inside information from a friend with Homeland Security connections, accurately forecasted that Diddy would face legal trouble in September. It appears Deal's prediction was strikingly accurate.
Oh, man, yeah, that's crazy, man. But have you been hearing any news about him getting indicted or no?
No, one of my friends who was actually in the studio with him said that Homeland Security brought him in, and this dude is he's a fraternity brother of mine, but he's also a producer, an engineer, and he was in the studio the night one of the girls made a complaint. The night something happened to one of the girls, and he told the lawyer everything that the girl told him, which was crazy. And Homeland Security brought him in. So he told them they wouldn't let him know what they were doing, but it seemed like that something might happen before Labor Day.
Wow, before Labor Day?
Yeah.
Interestingly, many of the accusations Diddy now faces were predicted by former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe during the initial raid on Diddy's home. McCabe had speculated about the nature of the allegations, some of which have now materialized.
It's not uncommon for allegations in civil lawsuits to be considered by federal investigators and federal prosecutors and reviewed to determine whether or not a federal crime may have been committed. And that seems to be what happened here. I thought it was interesting that the attorney's statement really basically confirmed for the public that some of the investigative interest was likely generated from these lawsuits. Which is interesting because several of the lawsuits allege activity that likely would fall within the parameters of sex trafficking. Several of these women claim to have been transported from one state to another and then drugged and assaulted, or his former girlfriend who claims to have been forced to perform sex acts with different people in different states as they traveled around the country. So I think it was an unfortunate almost admission by the lawyer. Not that it has legal significance, but it certainly puts us in a position to speculate more accurately about what's actually driving this investigation.
As the legal battle intensifies, Diddy's sons have arrived in New York to attend the court proceedings. Their presence adds a new layer of drama to the unfolding saga. Many of Diddy's sons have exhibited behavior similar to their fathers and are currently facing their own legal issues. This has led to speculation that some of them might soon find themselves in trouble similar to Diddy's.
Yacht incident, which we're going to get into, was mentioned in Jones's lawsuit against Diddy, with Jones claiming in the complaint that he had personal knowledge that Christian drugged and sexually assaulted a woman. And a footnote was included that a complaint would be forthcoming. Now, at the time, I was wondering if Jones would be the one suing Christian. After all, he already sued Christian's brother and Diddy's other son, Justin. But I was struggling to figure out what would be his cause of action against Christian. Well, it turns out that Jones is not suing Christian. It is actually the woman who was allegedly assaulted by Christian, and she is being repped by Jones's lawyer. I will explain. So first, this development comes almost 2 weeks after Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles were raided by Homeland Security investigators. It's part of a sweeping sex trafficking investigation by the Southern District of New York, or at least that's what it's being reported. That's what sources from law enforcement are indicating. Now, Diddy's two sons, Justin and Christian, they were seen in handcuffs outside of that LA home during the raid. They weren't under arrest. They were merely detained while officers were assessing the situation and going into the home. But Diddy, Justin, and Christian, they have all been named in these very big lawsuits.
During a press conference, the U.S. Attorney detailed grave human rights abuses allegedly linked to Diddy's activities. These accusations involve serious violations, including drugging individuals and transporting them across state lines.
Say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair.
A TV show co-host pointed out that the case against Diddy bears similarities to cases involving organized crime, noting that it features many comparable charges.
This was more disturbing to me. It's only 14 pages, but within the 14 pages, it describes, mob-like behavior. These cases are generally brought against mobs. So they are describing a criminal enterprise that involved trafficking of underage people across state lines to have sex, and they dubbed them freak-offs. They raided his homes and found 1,000 vials of lubricant.
Yep, and baby
They
oil.
raided his homes and they found narcotics.
But that's not, the lubricant is not.
It ain't a crime, guys.
It ain't a crime.
But it is evidence, it can be used as evidence of a freak-off, because they also have, they were calling these orgies, basically, that he orchestrated as a
with
criminal
underage
enterprise
girls?
with underage girls and
And some of
commercials, and some of age, and
Yeah.
commercial sex workers traveled across state lines, which
Yeah.
is illegal.
The U.S. attorney also presented evidence seized from Diddy's properties, including large firearms and ammunition. This evidence not only strengthens the case against him, but also highlights Diddy's violent and dangerous
Some
nature.
of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
As the U.S. Attorney and the Department of Justice pledge to hold Diddy accountable, this dramatic turn of events sends a powerful message. Once celebrated and honored with a key to the city, Diddy now faces the full force of the law. This commitment to justice underscores that no one, regardless of their status, is above the law. As the case continues to unfold, many questions remain unanswered. What will be the next developments in this high-stakes legal battle? How will these revelations impact the entertainment industry and beyond? Stay tuned for the latest updates on this evolving story.